Hello everybody, welcome back to another light novel review. This week I'm going to be talking about volume number 4 in Jean's light novel series, Kagerou Daze. This book opens up with a new character being introduced, that is Azami. And Azami, we sort of follow a bit of her life and how she sort of grows and develops as a person. And her story really starts to lay out some of the groundwork of how these powers, the eyes that all the members of the Mekakushi-dan have, how these powers sort of originated and what the source of those powers are. Her story goes a long way to sort of giving us a lot more answers about what's going on in this series. But not too many answers because, it wouldn't be Kagerou Daze without creating a whole bunch of new questions. The book also has a second storyline which focuses on the backstory of one of the members of the Mekakushi-dan, which is Marie, who is the young girl that can sort of freeze people by looking at them. She's been kind of a mysterious figure in the series so far, and so we get a lot of her backstory, and it explains a lot about who she is and her behavior and so forth. Now, I really liked this volume. It seems to me that as we go along in this series, Jean seems to be learning more about the whole pacing aspect of the series. I also like that he breaks down and uses fewer characters, like really only uses the characters he needs for a particular storyline in the series. Now, Azami being a completely separate character from everybody else that we've seen so far, her story is very self-contained. But when we get to Marie, we've only got 3 other members of the Mekakushi-dan who are with her, and it really helps focus the story, because if I had one complaint about this series, and it's not a complaint per se, but there are a lot of characters in this series, and some of them utilized a lot more than others, depending on which sort of storyline you're following. So when you go a good number of months without reading any of the volumes, just to pick it up and go through it, it takes you a few minutes just to try and remember who all of these characters are. I think this series ideally would be a great series to binge read once all the volumes are released, because it seems to me that even sort of the titles of some of the chapters and which characters specifically are narrating those particular chapters, there's hints in those titles. There's hints in the way they're numbered. There's hints in all these things. And again, I really enjoy that we're getting these sort of plays with characters. So the vast majority of the book, well, really, I think all of the book is written in first person, but we constantly have different first person narrators. And sometimes it's almost a little disorienting because you don't know initially who that narrator is. And in fact, in some instances, you never do find out. That's part of the whole mystery of Kagerou Daze, is who are these people that are manipulating things behind the scenes? How are characters getting drawn into these situations? What is the truth of this world that these people inhabit? It's a very different series from a lot of other light novels that we're currently getting released in English, which makes it very interesting to me and a lot of fun. And I can't say that I thought I'd feel that way when I finished the first book. I felt it was a little bit plodding and I didn't really like the characters as much, but definitely in volumes 2, 3, and especially in this volume, I just found that the pacing was a lot better. The mixing of the different storylines together and how sort of elements of one storyline mirror the element of the next storyline that he includes next and so forth. It really works to pull the book along, and that even though these stories are quite separate, it makes the book still feel a bit cohesive. So Kagerou Daze, I'd say, is probably one of the more surprising series to me. It's one of those ones that I carried on with some trepidation, but I've really ended up enjoying. Another thing that is evident in this series, and it's something that I've mentioned as a negative to some of the other light novels I read, is that these characters are developing. Shintaro, who was the main character or the main narrator of the bulk of volume number 1, I didn't really like him that much, but he comes back to narrate the Marie storyline in this volume, And you can really tell there's a growth in this character, and that his relationship with the Mekakushidan has started to change who he is. We sort of saw this a bit with his sister Momo in the previous volume, and we certainly see it in Marie as her story sort of unfolds in this episode, and we find out more about who she is, and she opens up to the other members about who she is and what her story is all about. So I do enjoy that these volumes are really accomplishing driving the main narrative forward without, it almost feels like you don't really know it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like it hammers you over the head like this is the main storyline. You're just introduced to a new character, and as things unfold around them and events unfold around them, it really does enhance your understanding of how it actually fits into the larger story. And I do appreciate the fact that we are seeing changes and growth in all of the main characters, and I am very much looking forward to seeing how this all plays out in future volumes. If I had one other complaint is, they're very, very short, and yet they pretty much still charge me the exact same money as if I was reading a 250-page light novel. But at the same time, it makes them a really nice, quick little read. I sat down and read this in a single day, and like I said, I think part of that was to do with the pacing of it all. So those are my thoughts on volume number 4 of Kagerou Daze. It is a cool little series, and one that I think you should check out. And again, like I said, it can be a little disorienting just because of the switches in voice, and that there's a lot of times where intentionally the identity of the narrator is left to be ambiguous. But it's a little challenging that way, and it makes it kind of fun and just makes a bigger mystery and makes you want to find out just what the heck is happening. So those are my thoughts on Volume 4 of Kagerou Daze. Next week, I'm going to be reviewing Volume number 4 of Ryogo Norita's Durarara. We're going to have a little bit more of headless motorcycle riding, scythe-wielding action. I hope you'll join me for that one. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to click on subscribe so you can check out this review plus all my future light novel reviews. I do have links to my older reviews above as well as my manga reviews. And I don't just read books, but when I find time, I do like to write as well. I've got links to those books as well. Thank you so much for watching the video. I do look forward to seeing you in the next one. Until then, bye-bye for now.